So hey y'all, I'm back with another video. So tonight's video is yet again another Chioma Chats video podcast edition. So by the title, we're going to be talking about colorism. Please click off now if this topic bothers you. It's 2023 and I don't give a flying phalange about how bothered some black people are more bothered by colorism conversations than racism conversations. Quite frankly, you're weird to me and this is not the channel for you. So yes, we're going to be talking about this notion of reverse colorism and light-skinned people facing colorism. This stems from the podcast interview that Megan James from Bad Girls Club and Basketball Wives did with Houston rapper Monaleo. Can we just take a moment to appreciate Mona? Like, this girl is so underrated. I feel like QC should sign her. I know they already have Lakia, but damn, Monaleo is hard. She definitely needs more push. Part of her lack of push could be for any reason, but one in particular is colorism. So Megan and Mona were discussing, and Megan asked about whether or not Mona felt that it was more difficult for a darker-skinned female rapper to be seen, and she honestly and easily answered yes.
Because I be battling people with this question all the time.
Okay.
Do you believe in colorism, and do you feel like it's easier as a female rapper to like make it big when you're like of a lighter complexion?
Believe in colorism. Colorism is very real. It's a very real thing, for sure. And it definitely is easier for, not to take away from anybody who is a light-skinned rapper, but it's definitely easier for a woman with a lighter complexion to blow up quicker than a dark-skinned woman, for sure.
But like, why do you feel like that? Because like, I be getting into it with people, right? I used to get made fun of at school because I wasn't black enough. Bitches used to try to cut my hair. Like, people be thinking that like light-skinned girls don't go through colorism. We go through colorism just, I don't know if it's like as bad as like,
well, it's not like
girls.
It's not colorism. It's not colorism. If you're light skinned, it's not colorism.
So what is it called?
If people was picking with you, then that's like, but it's not colorism. Like, colorism is discrimination against darker skinned, like darker complected people.
You're basically talking about reverse.
Well, reverse colorism then, because they used to be like, you ain't even black for real. You're white. Go over there with the white girls. And I'm just like, bitch.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Like, I am black, actually.
Yeah, that's an interesting experience.
Yeah.
I've heard people who like mixed people talk about experiences and stuff like that. But
I got no white parents.
But I've heard people like lighter skinned people like say stuff like that. I wouldn't say it's reverse colorism. Like, I don't think that that's a thing. But I understand.
I'm trying to describe the moment that you're having, and that's kind of like what you're saying. But also, it's like that thing like, oh, you're pretty to be a dark skin.
Yeah, but we also get, oh, you're pretty to be a black. Like, I've had white people and others.
Well, that's racism.
Yeah, that's racism.
Right.
But like, they'd be like, you're pretty to be a black. I've had black girls be like, you're pretty. Are you mixed? Like that? Are you mixed? You have to be mixed.
Right.
I thought you was mixed.
Sad.
You mixed. Why I gotta be mixed?
Right.
Yeah, that thought process is actually sad.
Yeah,
that I would have to be mixed to be.
Oh wait,
but I mean, just to play to play devil's advocate, like black, especially little black girls in general, we've been indoctrinated to think that darker skin, especially like just the way that I grew up, like darker skinned people experience a completely different experience than people who are light skinned, and that is just like the bottom line, and that is where the issue of colorism comes in, for sure.
So we've seen time and time again how light skin privilege helps, aids, and assists many women in the entertainment industry. I know a few months ago I made a video about rapper Ice Spice, who was out of the Bronx, New York, and how her light skin privilege helped her reach a huge audience, even though some people would consider her mediocre. I actually have always said that the song Munch is actually cool to me. I don't dislike it, and I think it was just a viral song, but the fact that her relevance is still continuing is questionable to me, because I don't think that she has followed up from that song. People really dragged me and called me a hater because I said that light skin privilege and Ice Spice are synonymous. People even said I was jealous that my music career hasn't gone anywhere like Ice Spice's has, when I literally have only put out one song and it's been out for a year now. I haven't even dropped any music since then. By the way, go stream my song Ballin'. It is out on all platforms, link down below. Like, for me, I love Glorilla because she's put out better singles than her FNF single, which was her original claim to fame. Tomorrow is hard, Nut Quick is hard, Blessed is tries hard, she actually can rap and has shown that she has talent. But a rapper like Monaleo, whose song Beating Down Your Block has 23 million views on YouTube and it's been out for about a year and a half, versus Ice Spice's song Munch that has 25 million views on YouTube and it's been out for like less than 5 months, does show that there are reasons for the disparity. And like I said, it could be anything, but I think we would be naive to say that the physical appeal of the artist is not a reason, because it is, especially when it's clear who has more talent and lyricism when we're talking about rapping. The interview brought up this terminology of reverse colorism, insinuating that light-skinned women, and we're pretty much talking about within the Black community, receive some form of similar injustice or social discrimination due to their whiter, brighter, or fairer skin tone in comparison to their darker counterparts. And as we relate this to the entertainment industry, I think this conversation is actually very relevant. So I thought this entire thing was very thought-provoking, and I know I'm definitely going to ruffle some feathers like I always do. You've been warned. Go ahead and click off now if you get triggered by colorism. I am not holding back. So I've broken this video down into one overall main talking point. So without further ado, let's get right into this video. So my one and overall main talking point is that reverse colorism doesn't exist. It's not a thing, and light-skinned Black people do not face colorism. I'm going to say that again because I think people really try to argue my viewpoints as if I'm going to change my mind, but I genuinely mean it when I say that reverse colorism is inexistent and that light-skinned or fair-skinned Black people, let alone racially ambiguous people who may be mixed with Black, do not face colorism. This interview was interesting because it brought up this debate that I often see used by many people of fairer complexions when talking about discrimination based off our skin tone. So many times lighter-skinned people, and it's usually just lighter-skinned women, throw this jab that there is some form of rebuttal or reverse colorism that they receive as a result of their skin tone being looked at or perceived in a certain way. And I will never discredit the fact that light-skinned people do face some form of backlash due to their complexion. I think that's very fair to say, but of course it's nothing compared to what actual colorism is. And I don't even think it's about comparing and contrasting the two. I think it's about what the actual definition of colorism really is. I feel like the word reverse colorism is an inauthentic nomenclature for two reasons. One, some light-skinned people don't want to take accountability that they are or were active perpetrators of colorism towards darker-skinned people. And then two, some light-skinned people feel they need to express their dealings with complexion controversy in a certain term. But the term isn't reverse colorism. By definition, colorism is the prejudice or discrimination against individuals with a dark skin tone, emphasis on dark, typically among people of the same ethnic or racial group. Colorism within the Black community has been a serious emotional and psychological battle. Discrimination based on skin color, also known as colorism or shadeism, is the form of prejudice and or discrimination in which people who share similar ethnicity traits are treated differently based on the social implications that come with the cultural meanings that are attached to their darker skin. So there isn't a reverse to that because you cannot reverse discrimination that is solely based on a certain type of skin tone. I definitely want people to consider the fact that darker skinned people receive way more and way harsher experiences in life because of their darker skin tone, but I really want people to focus more on the fact that what they think may be colorism in regards to the disrespect or taunting for being light-skinned is not what the definition entails. The interview actually brings this up as well about how a light-skinned woman is chastised for having longer hair or thinking that they are better than someone even though they may not think that about themselves. Now, that is more or less bullying than it is colorism. I know this is going to be very controversial to say, but I feel like there are a lot of lighter-skinned people who feel the need to be a part of this colorism struggle because of how rigorous this colorism conversation has been over the past few years. I feel like it makes some people feel uncomfortable that they are benefiting from a privilege that they cannot control. But I don't think lighter-skinned people should feel uncomfortable, but just more or less aware of the fact that you may not fit the pants that a lot of darker people have been wearing for all of their life. And that's okay, but what is not okay is trying to equate your struggle to one that is way worse than yours. What's also not okay is trying to silence or police people from having this conversation as if there's been a solution. The only solution that I've seen is commentators, which are primarily YouTubers like myself, who have kept this conversation alive for years so that many lighter-skinned people can be educated about it, many darker-skinned people can feel comfortable to express their grievances and their experiences, and so that the men that are involved within the Black community community, who are usually the biggest perpetrators of colorism, understand how much it has affected darker-skinned Black women over the past few decades. We all know that white people are to blame for colorism. They separated slaves based off of skin tone. They initiated the brown paper bag test and said that if you weren't the same shade or lighter than a brown paper bag, then you had to be a field slave working out in the sun, ironically getting darker. Meanwhile, the lighter-skinned slaves were in the house doing less demanding work. So of course they are to blame, but Black people are also to blame because we have really internalized this idea of colorism and allowed it to be prevalent in our spaces as well. I've done several videos showcasing how in the entertainment industry, so many Black men have either disrespected, harassed, or not selected darker-skinned Black women or Black women in general to be seen as equal counterparts, representations of attractiveness, and deserving recipients of opportunities. But it's like when you point this out, it makes people upset that this is a reality, and I could never understand why when let me sit up here and talk about racism based on police brutality and how the white man does all of these egregious things to Black men, everyone will stand in solidarity, including Black women who may or may not even be dark-skinned Black women. But when it comes to colorism, people are mute. India Royale, who is the baby mother to Chicago rapper Lil Durk, even spoke on this. She tweeted and said, "Colorism versus bullying. Once you educate yourself and understand that as a light-skinned little girl you were bullied, being light-skinned didn't actually affect your life, job, etc." And this is facts, and it's coming from a lighter-skinned woman who is revered in the hip-hop community. The quote-unquote reverse colorism that some people think they are experiencing is really bullying. And I'm not saying that it's right. I'm not saying that it's anything other than it's not reverse colorism. I acknowledge the fact that lighter-skinned women have been teased for not being Black enough, but what colorism directly alludes to is things that actually restrict you from being successful, restrict you from being confident, restrict you from being respected, and restrict you from being desired. And I don't think that a lighter-skinned Black person's skin tone affects them in that way like it does a darker-skinned Black person. Well, women, because I do think that darker-skinned Black men have a lot of privileges in entertainment. I've never heard a light-skinned Black girl say that she wasn't selected for a beauty campaign because her skin tone was too dark. In most cases, I've never heard a dark-skinned Black man say that he wouldn't date a light-skinned girl because she was too dark. And it's not to downplay the life experiences, but just to indicate what the definition really is alluding to. Society relates darker skin to masculinity and lighter skin to femininity. So for darker skinned Black women, you're getting written off as something that you're not. Mannish, masculine, aggressive, and then some. I feel like being bullied for not being Black enough isn't even that exclusive to lighter skinned Black girls. I went to an all-white school for my entire life, even college, and I've seen Black girls who look just like me get ostracized from Black spaces just because they talk a certain way, wear their hair in certain styles, or dressed in certain fashions. I do think that your surroundings do determine the prejudice that you receive, but it's triggering to hear the phrase, quote unquote, reverse colorism being used as a comparison to what real colorism is. And every single time we talk about this, darker skinned Black women are called insecure, are called bitter, are called angry, and to get over it. When, again, society hasn't shifted in a way that shows that we as a collective of Black people everywhere want to see a change and are acting on a change. I've seen improvement, don't get me wrong. I've seen a lot of dark skin representation over the past few years, but we're not there yet. I feel like the idea of reverse colorism is only brought up to invalidate real colorism. And yes, there are many bitter, dark-skinned Black women who point to colorism about every little thing. I see them. I even see them on my YouTube channel. But to take away from the experience that has never ever changed since you were a young girl, I can't allow people to create these false terminologies and confidently push that to the world. I just can't. If you were bullied for being light-skinned, you probably aren't being bullied anymore for it because we're living in a society that literally promotes you. But if you were bullied for being dark-skinned, you're probably still facing the same prejudice. And that's why you cannot compare or contrast. Sorry, not sorry. I feel like for Megan James to have this podcast, she has got to be way more educated and way less ditzy. I mean, she just kind of came off like a bird who is way too old to not understand certain topics. Monaleo is very well-spoken, very articulate, and very aware of the reality of her placement in entertainment. I think colorism has affected so many female rap talents over the years to the point where we have now prioritized aesthetic over talent. I mean, I know people tell me that I should stop talking about certain female rappers, being that I am pursuing the industry as well, but I'm not gonna shut up about things that are true and really do affect people. There's no reason that certain artists such as Saweetie should be one of the biggest female rappers out. And I actually like Saweetie, but I'm just saying, talent-wise, no. Because no. Even as far as Cardi B, she's bigger than people who are way more talented than her. And a lot of that is what you look like versus your actual talent. And I'm tired of people telling me that I'm a hater for saying that, because if we're being real, if we can't have an honest and open conversation about the privileges that people not only accept but perpetuate to get them ahead, then you can't also be passionate about race-related topics and gender-related topics and culture-related topics in the same breath, because that's just simply disingenuous and doesn't really reveal the root of the issue. Former Love and Hip Hop cast member Masika Kalisha also weighed in, and she said reverse colorism 100% exists. Saying that it doesn't exist is actually proof that it does. Child, she deleted this tweet, but yeah, she said that. Monaleo tweeted back and responded by saying, I've gotten some nasty tail messages since that interview dropped, and all I did was point out what I thought was the obvious. I stand by what I said about colorism still being a very real and prevalent issue, and there is no such thing as quote-unquote reverse colorism. Mona, welcome to my world, where I receive comments saying that I'm an insecure hater anytime I speak on colorism, let alone acknowledge the fact that there are many lighter-skinned women benefiting from colorism. Masika also tweeted, all these messages bashing, dogging, condemning, and discriminating against light-skinned women in efforts to prove that light-skinned women don't get discriminated against really drives the point, huh? No, because you can't tweet something that completely gaslights the people who are trying to educate you about what they deal with to this day. Like, is she off? Somebody, she always give me, off vibe. Anyway, some Twitter users cleared Masika by saying, being made fun of isn't colorism, it's just bullying. Colorism results in oppression. Employers prefer light skin, dark-skinned people get harsher jail sentences, light-skinned kids are treated better than dark-skinned kids in school. These are measured facts, Masika. Another person said, this is exactly why your point is invalid. You say something inflammatory and gaslight the reality of lighter-skinned folks having privilege, then when you're called out for it, you're now a victim and pretend it's due to your skin tone. It's due to your anti-blackness. Read a book. I feel like it's people like Masika being woefully ignorant to the whole notion of colorism that is what causes this conversation to never be effective. If people would actually listen to understand versus listening to respond, maybe, just maybe, people would comprehend how complex this social nuance truly is. And it's not complex in a sense where there are so many moving parts to it. I mean, there are offsprings of colorism such as texturism, featureism, and all the isms. But it's complex because the origin versus where it is now is not on the same page. As stated earlier, we all know that white people created all of the isms of the world: colorism, racism, and even patriotism. Patriotism is supposed to mean taking pride in your homeland, but deep down inside, from an American or European viewpoint, that patriotism should really be considered Aryan race promotion. But that's a topic for another video. I think this idea of reverse colorism is absurd. There is no system that is demonizing lighter complected people and things that actually matter. And not to say that your self-esteem doesn't, but in reference to the entertainment industry, because that was the premise of this conversation, when you're a darker skinned woman and record labels won't listen to your music because you don't have the quote unquote look, or the rappers, athletes, actors, entertainers won't date you, or you're the butt of their jokes because they equate you to being unattractive because you're dark, or just the overall global disenfranchisement that darker skinned women receive, it does not nearly compare to what people think reverse colorism is. I hope that word is dead on arrival. That word should never even be continued in any type of conversation because it's a gaslighting tactic that is used to invalidate the experiences of the woman who actually faced this trauma. I don't care who's upset, go cry me in Niagara Falls, because there is no such thing as reverse colorism. And let's not for 1 second introduce this phrase into the mindsets of anyone in the Black community or beyond. So that is it for this video. I hope you all enjoyed. Please let me know your commentary on my commentary down below. What do you think? What do you know? Let me know. If you haven't already, go stream my song Ballin'. It is out on all platforms, linked down below in my description box. And don't forget to follow me on all of my social media networks, and I will see y'all in my next video. Bye, y'all.
Baby, cause I'm like that. In the comments going off and really talking shit. Shoot them up in my lyrics so they can know that I can spit. I'm real and you counterfeit. Body looking nice and fit. It's $500,000 for bail, for real. Cause I'm African. Stop flexing with your homegirl. Purse that ain't your Louis V. Ain't fooling me. Got 2 degrees, you new to me. So that mean ain't no schooling me. Clowning on, I'm tired of these bitches making foolery. I'm sunning y'all, it's like I give them puberty. I know I got a problem, man. I like him from the south. He always call me boo and ask me what I'm talking about. Catch me out in Lucky Beach, my legs sprawled out. These Nigerian men be Baha men who let them dogs out. I said it's Chioma.